Hello, Madam Gomti. Good morning, Madam Gomti.
Hello. Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Very good morning, Dr. Sujata.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Ma'am Gomti.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Good morning. Good morning, Madam. Yeah, Ma'am, shall we start? Okay. So, before starting, beginning little bit about this program, this is actually for the second year student, university made it mandatory that they have this 2 credit field project program where student has to complete fields and collect data and write a research report. So, to conduct this program or to introduce students with various skills like information literacy skills and the research skills, uh, with the vision of our principal, Professor Dr. Siva Thomas, we have designed this program. And now we have reached at the junction where we are introducing students very research skill. So, first session is the first session in this research skill program. So, we welcome you to Andrew, and now I will request Professor Michel Regi to introduce our resource person. Professor Michel Regi.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible? Good afternoon, everyone. It is with great pleasure I welcome you all today for today's session on Introduction to Research Methodology. We are honored to have today with us our resource person, Dr. Gomti Jatin. Dr. Gomti Jatin is an associate professor at the Center of Excellence in Teacher Education at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. He's very passionate about adolescent psychology, positive psychology, socio-economic emotional learning practices, teacher education, and classroom pedagogy. Dr. Jatin has conducted workshops on various topics, including classroom management and blended learning, at both national and international level. She conducts professional development training programs for school leaders, educational leaders at different levels of government from many states across the country and Bhutan. Thank you for taking your time to share your knowledge, Dr. Jatin, and we look forward for a productive session today.
So do I start? Dr. Sujata?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. And a very good afternoon to all. I can see around almost 200 participants, students. Yes, the joy of actually having you face to face and seeing you will be even more. But then, nevertheless, online we can have. We can have interactive discussions here. Please do not go to sleep. Please do not be passive, right? It's consider this as a classroom where you are allowed to speak, you can talk, you can ask, you can share. I hope that's clear to the students. And I would require a confirmation at every point, without which I will not move further. So pauses say that you are not with me. Silence and pauses are something that convey you are not with me. So please do confirm you are with me, you are listening to me, and then I move to share my presentation. None of you. Okay, fine. Now, research methodology, as Dr. Sujata pointed out, that I think it's some project that you are venturing in and you are here to understand what is research, right? So first, let me understand what you know about research. Yeah, is my screen visible to you? Students, please say yes or no. I cannot see raised hands. Please speak up. Unmute yourself and speak up. Yes, Miss Nikita, you have raised your hands. Do you want to ask something?
No, ma'am, you had asked if I'm listening to you. That's why I raised my
Okay.
hand.
Okay, fine. So see, the thing is, it's an online platform and it's very difficult to go back and forth to see who is on the chat, who has raised hands. So it would be good that if you unmute yourself and speak up, it's okay to intervene in between. Okay. So I would like that more. I would like to hear your voices. So as you see, introduction to research methodology, these are the things that we'll be covering today. What is research? And under research methodology, how we can distinguish between methods and methodology, the types, certain tools, types of sampling, data analysis, and a work sample so that it's more concrete. Yeah. Though in an hour we cannot go into the in-depth of the whole research, it requires a lifetime to understand research. As researchers, still we are trying to understand more researchers. So this is just a bird's eye view of what you can do and what you will be able to venture in your project. So can you see some logos on the screen? Yes? Do you see some logos on the screen?
Students are writing in the chat box, ma'am. They are
Okay,
saying yes.
okay. So it's okay. So you have said yes, but then can you guess these organizations and what do they do? I would like to hear from you rather than putting on the chat, please. There are certain logos of organizations. What are those organizations and what do they do? You mean you don't understand what these organizations are, Shreya? Some of them are already written here. You can see UNESCO. Have you heard about UNESCO? Have you heard about UNESCO? Yes. So what does UNESCO do? What is the full form of UNESCO? Yes, Social Science Research Center, right? So ICSSR. The name itself suggests, right? Indian Council of Social Science Research. So what is Indian Council of Social Science Research? What does it do? No one here? Research about space. Which organization research about space, Ms. Bhumi? Which one are you talking about research about space? NASA. Very good. So it's about space and the kind of different satellites and those kind of things. Exactly. Right. So this is research. Any other response? UNESCO. You can see in the left there is ASER, ASER 2024. Have you heard about it? So here you see ASER 2024 reveals learning. It's a report that the government comes out every frequently at every time in year every year. So what does it come with, Acer? Any idea? Yes, WHO. So what does WHO do? World Health Organization, right? So what are the researchers under WHO? You are right, Miss Samara. So about health, well-being, and different kinds of aspects related to health, right? So what is this organization where there is a child and a human figure? Have you heard of UNICEF? United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. It's UNICEF, yes. Am I audible? There are some who cannot hear me. Am I audible? Can the organizers please confirm that I'm audible? Yes, okay, thanks.
Yes,
Right. So UNICEF again is another organization that does kind of researches, right? So if you look at these kind of organizations, they are all doing some kind of research, basic researches, applied researches. So some are trying to expand the wealth of knowledge in certain, say, science, cultural. Look at UNESCO. It's science, cultural organizations, right? So with respect to science, with respect to culture, with respect to social science, right? UNICEF, WHO, they're all looking into various kind of researches that let us know what is going on in the world. Now we at, at a student level, what kind of researches we do? Any idea? You're already introduced to the project and you are going to do some kind of research project. Can anybody speak up? What are you going to do? Yes, Neil, would you like to say something? What are you going to do in your research project? Okay, so let me do one thing. Rather than you speaking, let me ask you in an anonymous way. Okay, here I'll put a link on the group chat. Go to the link, click on that link, and tell me if you're able to go to the page. How many of you are finding it problem to go to the page? And tell me what is written on that page. Yes, Mark, you've gone to the page. What is written on the page? I don't see anyone on that page. Have you clicked on the link? Daniel, you must be having a problem at your end. Please check. Maybe you can shut. log out and then re-log in. Probably you are having the problem, not others. How many of you have gone to the page? Yes. Okay. Is there no access? Are you having access now? Yeah. So now you can respond to this, respond to the question. Just can click on the sticky notes, automatically it will come. You have just to click on the click note and automatically it will come this way. Can you see a note where I have typed something? Why is there a lot of confusion? I don't see any responses. Can you please speak up? Then I'll come to know what is the problem exactly.
Ma'am, can you accept our request?
Request is already accepted, dear, but then there are people who are just moving around. You need to put the sticky note. It's already approved. The request is approved. Okay, now I think if you're not able to do it, you have to speak up. Collecting data and analyzing. What is that? There are people who have already written. Can you see others' responses? Yeah, I don't think you are able to do it anyway. So let's come back here. So now you have to unmute and or otherwise type it on the chat saying what did you understand by research. Let's not waste time there. So yeah, tell me what you understand by research now. Or you can put it on the chat. Can you please put it on the chat? Studying about a particular topic, okay. Finding out new information about a topic, creation of new knowledge, good. That's it. Around more than 250 participants and only 3 responses. collecting and analyzing information, okay, attempting to know the unknown, diving deep to know more about a particular topic. See how different both are. Attempting to know the unknown is one. Diving deep to know more about a particular topic, that means that's already known and existing. So it's deeper knowledge, studying on matter already worked upon by someone and adding, okay, analyzing existing facts, adding new changes, discovering and finding information, creative way to generate knowledge, yes, researching about a specific topic, interacting and finding gaps, good, systematic process, good, very good, solve a problem, okay, fine. So more or less you are aware of what research is, right? So it is, Google is not a synonym for research, we should know that, right? What do we usually do if you want to find out something? There are certain aspects that you have written trying to find out more about you or trying to know the unknown, so sometimes we end up searching the Google, and Google is not something about research. Yeah, reaching conclusions, yes, maybe or may not be. What kind of conclusions that we need to really determine, right? Okay, primary data, fine. Okay, so let's move further. If you look at what is research, what all you have written is right, but then what is it that we really need to focus on as researchers? It's not a technical exercise. It's not just about finding something or looking at something or, trying to just collect data or just analyze it. It's not something technical. It is concerned with understanding the world. So it is much deeper than what we think as finding out or getting to know the unknown, right? And it is informed by how we view our worlds. So there are about 250 participants here. If I give you a particular topic and say, come on, find out more about this, or try to find out and get some conclusions on this. Maybe each one of you will find it out differently, go to different spaces, use different techniques, use different samples, because it is informed by how you view your world, what you understand, what are your assumptions, what are your experiences, and what is the basic premise of your knowledge based on which that you're trying to find out something. So it is totally informed by how we view our world, what we take understanding to be, and what we see as the purpose of our understanding. So what do we understand? Each one's understanding in this particular cohort itself, around 250, we think differently. We understand things differently. So how we understand it and what is the purpose of our understanding, that will determine how we are going to research and what we are going to research. So each one's interest, knowledge, experience, all matters, right? Yeah. Yeah. In between, if you want to ask something or share something, you please unmute, because I may not be able to go back to the chats again. So it is a search for truth, right? So we always been concerned to come to grips with our environment and to understand the nature of phenomena. Environment, in the sense, is not necessarily always a green environment. It is not necessarily always about planets. It's not always about the satellites or science, pure science. Much more than that, we in education also look about the phenomena of students, phenomena of learning, phenomena of well-being, and many more other things as phenomena, right? How it presents to our senses. How do we see it as a phenomena? So the means by which we set to achieve these ends. If a teacher is teaching in a class, or if a student is bothered by, you're working in a particular organization and you're bothered by your team, why it is not achieving certain goals, what is bothering them. If you want to research those things, right? If you really want to understand why you are not able to achieve. So the means, what are you going to do to understand? Are you going to talk to them? Are you going to distribute a questionnaire to understand certain aspects, right? So the means by which we set to achieve these ends are classified into three different categories. One is experience, one is reasoning, and another is research. One is the kind of experiences that we go through as a team, what is happening. One is you try to understand, okay, this person is behaving in a certain way. He or she is coming from a certain background. He has a broken family. He or she has a broken family, or whatever. Or he or she has children who are not maybe in the normal, as we say, right, or special children. So we start reasoning as to why a person is behaving in a certain way. And then comes research as to clarify and confirm our assumptions and our experiences. That goes much beyond. As somebody had written, it is systematic and logical way of looking at things. Though experience, reasoning, and research are not mutually exclusive, they are dependent on each other. Each one supports the other, supplements the other. Experience supports reasoning, reasoning supports research. So they must be seen as complementary and overlapping. Right? So, yeah, let me go back. Okay, there are no. Okay, fine. Okay, so we attempt to comprehend the world around us by using three types of reasoning. Have you heard these three types of reasoning? Anyone? Please say yes or no. Deductive, inductive, inductive, deductive. Have you ever heard of these words? You can put on the chat. Yes. Okay. Some of them have not. Okay. Sydney, can you tell me where have you listened to these words or heard these words anytime? In what context? I don't want the definition. I just want in what context have you heard these words, if you have heard them? Would you like to respond, Sydney? Okay, fine. Let me go ahead. So, deductive. What is deductive? It's a sequence of formal steps of logic. So, we apply logic. Many times we say, we come to a conclusion, say, something that is existing, something based on our own experience by logic and authority. I have seen so many years of these kind of students. So, this might be probably the conclusion. It's just based on logic and the authority. Authority in the sense, I am more authorized to say a particular statement than you because you are younger and I'm older. Usually you see in the family, parents say that you don't know. I know because I have experienced it. I've seen a lot like that, right? So this is about deductive reasoning, a kind of formal steps of logic from general to the particular. That is why you are like that. I've seen so many students, in this particular behaving in a particular manner. That is why you are also like that. That is deductive reasoning. Then comes inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is something empirical evidences. So that means you have many such cases who are behaving in a certain way. That's why you decide that, okay, this case is also similar to that particular case. That's why they are behaving like that. So you come to a generalization. So usually you tell your parents, don't generalize. I'm not like that, right? So studying a number of individual cases that leads to that, okay, these people also will be the same. We say South Indians behave in a certain way. That's why this one being a South Indian, he or she also will behave like that. Or North Indians eat certain things. So this particular person who is a North Indian also will be eating certain, will not be eating certain thing, will be eating certain. So we inductively reason based on various cases that we see and generalize. But these both together, deductive and inductive, is a back and forth process. First you observe, lead to hypothesis, that is inductive based on the various cases, and then you deduce from the hypothesis to what can be actually concluded, to implications. So hypothesis, your assumptions are turned to hypothesis, they are tested, revised, and then we come to a conclusion. So we need to use both inductive and deductive together. Now I stop here. If you have any doubts, if you are not able to understand, please raise your hands or ask questions on the chat. Then I will move further. So you understand what is generalization and what is logic. One is based on logic, you conclude something, logic and authority. Another is based on empirical evidences. That is, all are doing a certain thing. So this person is also belongs to the same group. So he or she will be doing the certain thing. So that is generalization. So we use these both together in research, both inductive and deductive reasoning. Yes? Okay. So as you see, as somebody had rightly written, it's a systematic, controlled, empirical, and critical. So all these things should come together. It has to be systematic and logical. It cannot go into a random process. It's not something technical, right? It has to be controlled. If you're looking at a certain group of tribal people, then you need to know what is the kind of control that I will have. There cannot be other people within the tribal group. What is the variable that I'm studying? If that is the variable I'm studying, then what other things need to be controlled? Empirical. It should be based on observed evidence and collected evidence. It cannot be something that you just based on assumptions. Your assumptions need to be turned into rational decisions using data, using observation, and so on. That becomes empirical. And critical investigation. So, critical investigation is something you have a certain theoretical foundation, you have something conceptual with you based on your assumptions, and then you use your critical lens to be systematic, controlled, empirical for your data. So this is what research is about: systematic, controlled, empirical, and critical. Investigating, that is studying. Hypothetical propositions. What are hypothetical propositions? People from the north are very tall and they have good height, right? Your assumption. Now, how do you put as a proposition? You write it as a statement, and now you start looking at all the north. You take a certain sample, which region you want to look at, and then you see how many of them are, what is the basis of being, tall, what is the answer, what is the history of it, what is the story of it. All these things you try to find out through research. So your assumptions you're putting into hypothetical propositions about what you presume, and then you follow a systematic, control, and empirical investigation. That is what research is about. Okay. So these are certain types of research. Have you heard about types of research? Anyone? You can put it on the chat also if you have heard about these types of research. Because this session is going to just give you a bird's eye view and not go into the depth of everything. This will let you know at least what you can follow, and what approach you can take, what is the purpose of what you're doing. Okay, Deepika, you have heard about it. What have you heard? What minimal things have you heard about types of research? Could you speak up little? Deepika, would you like to respond as to if you have heard? What little have you heard about research? In what context? Anyone else who would like to try? Approach? Okay. You mean the qualitative and the quantitative? Okay. So what do you have any idea about the qualitative and the quantitative approach? Even basic, simple idea, anything? Or you have just heard those terms? Okay. As the name suggests, when you're looking at the types of research, there are three dimensions. One is the approach that you take, one is the purpose of doing that kind of research, and another is the methodology, right? Now, approach. All these things are complementing each other. Methodology is very important in research. Now, first thing is, let's see purpose. What is the purpose? One is basic research and other is applied research. And usually in education, we take up applied research. Why? Because we are trying to find, when in pure science, we are trying to have basic research where it expands to the knowledge of certain domain or certain discipline. That is basic research. In applied research, we use those knowledge of the basic research to find out certain solutions, practical solutions to what is there around us. We live in an ecosystem where there are a lot of issues, lot of concerns, problems, and we want to solve them. How will we solve them? We cannot just have a quick fix solution for everything. And contextually, for every group, every cohort, every community, solutions may differ, concerns may differ. So we need to find out, right? So that is applied research, where you enter into the area, into the context, and try to find out certain practical. So first, try to understand the concerns, issues, the factors underlying behind those concerns, and then try to find out solutions. There may be solutions or there may be mitigations. One is, you may not find always a solution, but you can at least mitigate the factors that lead to those concerns and issues, right? So that is applied research. That is a purpose. Now, when you're having a purpose, when you're having a problem area, how do you approach it? Whether qualitative or quantitative. Again, as the name suggests, quantitative is dealing. What is quantitative? What do you mean by quant? When you say quantitative, more qualitative is more as an in-depth, and quantitative involves statistical. Very good. Very good, Razel. Thank you for that response. So quantitative is numbers and qualitative is subjective. So quantitative is more objective, qualitative is more subjective. It's in words, right? Yes, both can be in-depth. In fact, quantitative also can be in-depth if you use high rigorous statistical measures, but then qualitative is more subjective. It is in words. It does not have numbers per se, but it has a lot of words or counts or those kind of records, documents, and so on. And quantitative is more about numbers. So which is the approach that you will use? That will be determined by what purpose your research is. Now, if you look at the ACER data, or if you look at the census, have you ever looked at the census data? Any of you? Do you know what is the census data? The government removes us census data, ACER data, so many other kind of data. Anyone? What do these data give? People during the election, people come, for uh, taking your information, profile, demographic data, and all those things. How do they come? How do they know? The government collects certain data. Yes or no? So these are
Yes.
usually, yes, survey data. Yes. So these are usually quantitative data, right? What kind of quantitative data? Numbers. How many old people, senior citizens, how many in a particular age group, how many small children, when they come for the vaccines and polio, how many children in this particular age group, right? And then this kind of data, this kind of demographic data, how many are staying inhabiting in a particular zone, ward, all these things you will get. These are all quantitative data. It's not that this quantitative data is completely redundant. They are very, very useful in complementing a qualitative data itself. Like, say, if you want to understand the kind of group, the number of inhabitants in a particular ward and the number of inhabitants in another ward, if you're comparing them and seeing that why there is lot of health problems in a particular area, right? So then you will jump to understand the factors, the aspects, what are all the kind of what do you say, the environment, the neighborhood they are staying in, what are the kind of vaccines that are available. So you may go into qualitative aspect of understanding why there is certain aspects, health aspects in a particular area and why not in the other area. So the quantitative data are also equally important for an in-depth study. Then after having an approach, it can be quantitative, it can be qualitative, it can be both, right? Both qualitative and quantitative, which is called mixed methods. When you combine both the methods in a study, we called it mixed method. Then you have an approach. What is an approach? Descriptive, experimental, and correlation. Can anybody tell me what do you understand by these as the term suggests? The terms very clearly suggest what is descriptive, what can be experimental, and what can be correlation. Can anybody try it out? What do you understand by descriptive, experimental, and correlation? Anyone who wants to try? Descriptive involves more surveys. Good. Experimental involves trying and testing, usually by comparison, not necessarily. Correlation involves correlating the data. Okay, very good. So, Razel, you've almost given this right response. But experimental can also be causal and comparative, right? It can be cause and effect. When you experiment on something, it's more related to the science, right? When you do something with, what is the cause of it and what is the effect of certain thing. So say if I want to find the effect of an online teaching on students learning achievement, so you have a what is dependent, the teaching as student achievement is dependent on online teaching. So whether online teaching is the cause of the student achievement or whether traditional teaching is the cause of student achievement, the cause effect is something that comes in the experimental. Then under experimental, there is also called comparative, causal comparative, and again correlation, as you rightly pointed out. Okay, whether there is a relation between online teaching and student achievement. This is some kind of correlation that you're finding out. So there are many statistical techniques that come under these aspects. So as we move further, now we go into research methodology. Right? Now, what is research methodology? The name itself subject methodology. That means planning the research. It is not about research methods. Very clearly take it into point that it is not about methods. It is about methodology. That is, how are you planning the educational research? Right from the purpose, right from the purpose, adopting an approach, and what kind of methodology are you following? That is the methods. So if you see, it is planning the educational research right from the start, identifying a problem to reporting the conclusions. That is what research methodology is about. So if you see, the planning is not an arbitrary matter, and it is a completely ethical enterprise. So throughout the research, right from the beginning till the end, ethics has to be followed in research. You cannot do, if you are doing research on a particular community, you cannot do it without their consent. You cannot take photos or videos without their consent. You cannot even fill a questionnaire without their consent. Everything has to be consented. If you're studying an organization, if you have to publish it, or if you have to report it, you have to take the consent of the organization to include their name. And if they are not consenting, then you need to publish it with anonymizing the organization. There has to be some confidentiality that has to be maintained in reporting a certain conclusion. So these are very, very important in research. Right in the beginning, you should have this. Now, let's look at what is methods and what is methodology. We always confuse between research methods and research methodology. So if we look at it here, methods are techniques that are used for conducting the research, and methodology are the ways to systematically solve the research problem. So it is a science of studying how research can be done systematically. Right? So the scope of research methodology is wider. That is, research methods are an embedded part of research methodology. As I told you, research methodology is right from the beginning to the end, starting from identifying an area of problem till documenting and reporting. And research methods are something which is a part of the research methodology. What are the research methods? Is it case study method? Is it qualitative method? Is it quantitative method? Is it an interview method? So many things come under methods, techniques, and so on. So these are something part of the research methodology. Instruments. You must have heard about tools. What? Questionnaire, survey. When you talk of survey, you have a survey questionnaire, right? Or when you talk of any kind of questionnaire, someone has to fill. You must be also filling certain questionnaires, right? Simple thing as review feedback form. When you go to hotels, restaurants, when you go to certain kind of parks, you fill up some feedback form. Why do you fill? Why do you think they take this? This is data for them. They're actually collecting the data from you, collecting the feedback from you, maybe to understand whether they have to improve something, what is wrong, what is good, what they need to improve, and so on. So it's not just about filling a feedback form. So if you look at it, they are instruments for collecting data. So when you take an interview, it cannot be just you sit across a person and start, putting questions and you're taking an interview. It's not any interview that even you see, big interviews that you see in the television or in some kind of, what is a reality shows. It's not just arbitrary. They do have certain questions that are guided by the purpose of your own interview. Why are you taking interview? Do you want to know the story of the person? Do you want to know the biography of a person? Or do you want to know only certain aspects of the person's career? So the questions will be guided by the purpose. And that questions, when you list down, that is called an interview schedule. Now, that questions can be one is structured and one is semi-structured. What do you mean by structured? You are going to get response only to the 5 questions that you have listed. Those are structured interviews. You ask a question, you write down the response. You ask a question, write down. And there is another semi-structured. So you're going to a community to understand certain aspects, and you are going to interview certain people of that community. Say maybe 2 aged people, 2 young children, 2 adolescents. You're going to interview them. Now, when you're interviewing, you have certain set of questions, say 5 questions. But you are not restricting your interview to only those 5 set of questions. Those 5 set of questions are your broader questions that are driven by your objective of the study and your research questions, right? You have certain research questions or objectives that my study, by the end of it, I need to have certain conclusions on this, right? So now these 5 questions will guide you as so that you don't miss out on certain aspects. But when you ask the first question, there are certain responses. Okay. Now these responses lead you to more questions, probing questions, few more questions, some other questions. So you get a lead for every question, and then you start writing a complete narrative from that person. So that is a semi-structured. It's only half structured. You have certain broader questions which helps you or leads you and guides you to more questions and more in-depth information. Those are semi-structured. So you always have interview schedules. Then you have questionnaires, either for survey or for any kind of variable. Say you want to uh, know the confidence of students in uh, in operating technology, right? So you have a set of questions, questionnaire. Nowadays you don't have hard copies, you just send by Google Forms. Earlier it used to be email, now you have Google Forms, right? Observation schedules. Yes, anybody wants to ask anything? Okay, so observation schedule. What are these observation schedules? Now you're going to observe a class, right? You want to understand how the teachers and students are interacting. What are they talking? What kind of feedback the teacher is giving, right? What are the kind of behavior the students are having in the class? You want to observe all this. Other than interview, you want to sit in the class and observe. Now, when you're sitting in the class, you may observe many things in the class. You may observe some fights, you may have some arguments, some talks. Are you going to list everything in your observation? If you're going to do that, you're going to bogged by data, right? So now your observation schedule is something that is again guided by your objective and the purpose. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of main area of study? What is your main problem? And what is it that you want to observe in the class, right? You are going to observe students' behavior when the teacher is teaching. So only those behaviors you will list down. So for that, you need to have certain pointers as to what exactly are you going to observe. Beyond, sometimes your pointers may not be exhaustive. You may need to add some more pointers during your observation, but that should be directly aligned with your objectives. So those are observation schedules. Then of course tests. What are these tests? Achievement tests. When you're doing an experimental study, right? I want to study the impact of project-based learning on students' achievement in, say, language learning. Okay, so you have a test for language. If I want to know the achievement of project-based learning, first I give a test in language learning. So I have an achievement test. They do that test. Then I conduct project-based learning for a week or for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Then again, I take the test, right? This is a pre-test, there is a post-test. Now I see whether there is a difference in the scores in the post-test from pre-test. And I say that my project-based learning has definitely worked well, and the effect, the achievement is directly attributed to my project-based learning. So that means project-based learning has some effect to a certain extent on the achievement of student scores on language learning, right? So these are the different kind of tests that you have. Then accounts is something that what do you say, biographical accounts, right? Records. How do you, while write, you're saying interview, you take down certain accounts, or you have some diaries while moving in your say studying an organization, right? In an organization, you're going to interview certain people and you're going to observe certain staff room or class or something. But other than that, there are certain accounts that you'll be taking while moving in the corridor, right? But in during the recess time, or say during the lunch time, or while people are dispersing, right? You're taking down certain things that will be very important for your research. You're taking down accounts. Then, of course, biographies, case studies, role playing, simulations. Even in role playing, you do have something, right? What a person is to play a role while role playing. So these are all projective techniques in psychology, right? So when you give a certain role and you see a person playing a certain role, you understand the person's behavior. According to the behavior, you understand the students' ideologies, worldviews, and so on. You do have a script, right? The way the person is playing the script. So all these things are something instruments for collecting data. With and methodology, right? Questionnaires. Are you, is it a survey? A questionnaire can be a survey. A questionnaire can be something testing a variable, say self-efficacy, say confidence, say motivation. So that can be a kind of questionnaire. Then an experiment. Is it an experimental method? So in experimental method, you're using achievement test. I can use achievement test even if I'm not using an experimental method for some other particular study, right? Action research. Am I going to do action research? That is, after looking at a performance in a certain class, what are the kind of interventions that I'm going to do? So that is action research. So what is the kind of methodology that I'm going to use? And in that methodology, I'm going to use specific instruments or tools like interview schedules, questionnaires, observation schedules, and so on. So what is this FGDs? Focus group discussions. Am I going to use focus group discussions, or am I going to use individual interviews? See, one is individual interviews where you actually take a person's interviews and have in-depth data. And there is focus group discussion. Suppose you want to understand an organization's staff mentality. Okay. So not necessary that you need to go to individual teacher. You can have an FGD. You can group them together. You can have certain, again, you have interview questions for that. Focus group questions. Then those questions you pose to the whole group. As a group, they respond. So when they are responding, they interact among each other. They may respond to each other. So all these things you are actually taking down. So this is what focus group discussion. So here, sample or people are not afraid to respond. Sometimes in interview, you won't get certain responses. They're afraid to respond. In focus group discussion, as a group, they'll be ready to reveal certain information. So that is focus group. Case study research, testing and assessment, that is evaluation studies, impact of a program. Now, but this program, this is a project conducted by your institute. Now, towards the end, they want to understand the impact of this whole program. So that is testing and assessing the program. Did it have effect? So now they will go into each and every session. They will get feedback for each and every session. They will get the feedback from your project artifacts, what you're going to, what you say, produce after the whole project, right? As a research proposal or a study or whatever. And then they will try to understand the impact of the program. So that is an evaluation or an impact study. So these are the kind of methodologies and these are the kind of instruments used in a particular methodology. I take a pause here. If you have any questions, anything to share, and then I move forward before. I hope it is not getting too overloaded. Please let me know. And these are basics basically. They are similar, but still they are different. Now, if I start explaining that, I will not be able to go ahead. See, I'm just giving you a bird's eye view, right? Now, with this, you have to go and find more about what survey is, what questionnaire is, what interview schedule is, and so on. I'm just giving you the complete, uh, say perspective. I'm not going to go into depth of each thing, right?
Ma'am, they are having separate session for this questionnaire designing and
Right.
interview schedule. Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Sajada. That's why I'm just building the perspective here so that,
yeah.
yeah. So I won't, because I want to uh, navigate the whole process with the what do you say, worked example, so that it's much clearer, all these things. Little
Yes,
clarity,
yes,
not much clarity.
yes, yeah.
Okay. So now when we go to techniques and method, now we looked at methods, right? There are certain methods that you looked at: interview, case study, role play, simulations, and so on. Now again, methods and techniques are slightly different. In methods, you have the behavior and the instruments used in selecting us and constructing a technique. So if you talk of technique, observation is a technique. What kind of technique I'm using? Interview is a technique. I'm taking the interview. I have a schedule. So interview is the technique of collecting data, where I have an interview schedule as a tool. So case study. A case study can be a method. It can be a design. Now a case study as a method, I have a certain set of, what do you say, for case study, am I using interview? Am I using ethnography? Am I using questionnaire? All these are tools for a case study technique, right? I'm using a case study method. An organization is a case study for me, right? Now if an organization is a case, say your institution is a case study for me. If that institution is a case study, what are the kind of techniques I'm going to use? I'm going to use interview technique for interviewing the teachers, right? To understand the climate of the organization, the culture of the organization, so on. Now, I may use only one or two, three, four teachers, individual teachers for interview technique. And then there are certain teachers I'm going to have FGDs. There may be reasons I need to be able to justify why I'm using individual interview technique and why I'm going to use FGDs for certain information, right? That is it. Then I'm going to observe classes. So observation technique. I'm going to observe certain classes and certain, say, co-curricular activities or some curricular, your cultural programs. I'm going to be a part of it. I'm going to be a part of it and observe those things. So I'm going to use observation technique and use observation schedule as a tool, and that will be my data collection. Similarly, supposing I want to understand your institution completely, in all aspects. I may want to spend my 6 months in your organization to understand the whole organization. Your organization is a case study for me. It's a case, it's a unit of case. I will stay there. I will be there. I will be in the staff room with the teachers. I will also be in every classroom as every other teacher. I will also be continuously interacting with the principal. So I am doing an ethnographic study. That is spending my whole 6 months within the organization as a part of you, and being there and being a part of it, and go undergoing all. If the principal is giving certain tasks to the teachers, I will also be given certain tasks as much as other teachers be. So I'll be a part of that organization. That is an ethnographic study. So in ethnographic study, I may be using interviews, I may be using observations. These are all techniques, right? So interview method, case study method, they are using certain techniques for data collection. So this is what in every that's why it's very systematic and very critical to understand each part of the research, how methods and methodology differ, how techniques and methods differ, and so on. So we look at the whole process, systematic process: defining the area, reviewing the literature, knowing about the area. First, try to understand. If I'm going to an organization, first I need to know about the organization. Then, what is it that I want to know about the organization? Do I want to know about the climate and culture? So, if I want to know the climate and culture, what are all the aspects that I need to focus on? What I need to interview? I just can't come and directly interview, right? So, what is an organization culture? What is an organizational climate? I need to know the review of what the literature talks about culture, what the literature talks about climate, what are all the aspects included in cultural climate, whom all I need to approach, what is the right kind of approach, is it qualitative or is it quantitative, or do I need to use mixed methods, so on and on. I need to know much more. For that I need to review the literature. Then Based on reviewing the literature, based on my own assumptions and understanding, based on what I gathered from the literature, I will formulate a hypothesis that is based on assumptions. Or if not necessary, every time a study will have hypothesis. A study will have research questions. Questions as to, if you are looking at an organizational culture, what are the kind of practices that the organization usually has with teachers, right? Or what is the leadership practices that the organization follows? Or what are the behavioral techniques that the organization follows with students? So these are the kind of questions, research questions, that I will frame based on what I have read in literature. Then you will have the research method, design, methodology, and everything. So research methodology, what collecting data. Now, when I'm collecting data, what are the kind of methods? What will be my tools? What will be my techniques? All these things had to be already, conceptualized during my research design. Who are the samples? Everything. And then, of course, analyzing data, testing the hypothesis, or responding to the research questions, interpreting the data, and reporting it. So this is the whole flow of, right from defining the research problem to communicating the results, that is interpreting and reporting. Now, again, a small overview of sampling. So there are probability sampling and non-probability. So what is probability? In probability sampling, each one whom we are actually trying to take has a chance of being chosen. So if it is whole population of 1,000, say your institute say has 4,000 students, right? And I want to study the student behavior in your institution. I'm not going to study 4,000 students. So I am going to randomly select. So probability sampling is, out of 4,000 students, each one has the same kind of chance, same probability of being chosen for my research. And non-probability is, it's a very random way of sampling where not necessary, there cannot be generalizations. It is very specific to a certain context. So let's look at it. Simple random. So from your organization, I just choose randomly, right? I just choose randomly the samples. Maybe for 4,000, I may want 400 students to study the behavior. I'm simply randomly choosing. 400 students, I cannot do qualitative study. I cannot go to 400 students to have, interviews or observe or something of that sort. One is observation technique, I can do it, but in random sampling, all will be at different places, right? So that is not possible. Simple random sampling, I may have a quantitative kind of questionnaire to distribute to 400 students. That is one. Stratified random sampling. Then within the institution, you may be having science, commerce, arts. So I may stratify. I want from science, from arts, and from commerce. Then again, I may want from first year, from second year. So I may want science, first year, second year, third year, commerce, first year. So I will stratify them and then randomly select, right? So from science, from first year randomly selection, from science second year randomly selection. Similarly, for all the domains, I will select randomly after stratifying it. That is groups. Then systematic. In systematic, I will have, you have roll numbers, right? So in the first year, I have a certain roll number, say 1 to 100 students. So I will choose the first, sixth, then after 6 comes 12th, every progressive, or in multiples of 5, in multiples of 10, I'll be choosing systematically and then randomly select them. Cluster sampling. Now I want only the first years, right? I want the student behavior at the entry level. So what I am going to do, I am going to take a cluster of first year, and then maybe I may go for random sampling, stratified sampling, but because I don't want to go from class to class, there may be two divisions. So I may just take one cluster of the first A division and go for my random sampling, stratified sampling within that cluster. And multi-stage sampling, again, all these things, as I said, stage wise, one is cluster. After cluster, you do systematic, then you do random. So this is what multi-stage sampling is. In non-probability, purposive. What is purposive? As I told, you cannot generalize. If I am going to study the students with special needs in St. Andrews, right? I don't want a 4,000. I need to only look at those students with special needs who are having certain learning difficulties. So that means my sample is narrowed now, right? So I need to go to the office, get a kind of, the population of students who are with special needs. While admission, there may be certain kind of data, right? Profile data that is being taken. So from that, I will pick now. Now, if it is a huge sample of, say, 1,000 students, then I may think of now randomizing in them. But my purpose is students with special needs. So that's very categorically, I'm choosing what solves my purpose. Convenience. Usually,
What's your name? Oh,
can you please mute?
there are 200 and plus people. It's
Can you
just
please
search it
mute?
so far.
Okay, convenience is something that is accessible, easily accessible, that is convenient for you. Maybe I want to do some research. It's in the vicinity. I want to do some research. Only this school is giving me access. That is convenience. Snowball is when I'm going to one person, I don't know the population in a community. I'm going to one person, that person is giving me certain information and says, this particular information probably that person will give. I'm going to that person, I'm taking. So it's a snowball. It's by referral. One after the other. Some after reference, you are getting data till the end, till where you get no reference. And quota sampling is again distribution of percentages. How many percentages of certain sample you require. Data analysis after sampling and using the tools, collecting data comes to data analysis. One is descriptive research, one is inferential analysis. In descriptive, you restrict yourself to mean, median, mode, standard deviation, cortices, which is uh, basically by graphs, by pie charts, you display them. And inferential analysis is something where we use statistical procedures like t-test, comparing between variables, comparing between genders, analysis of variance, so different factors. So like I said, right? First year, second year, third year, I want to compare with science, arts, commerce. Everything together, how you will compare? You cannot have one t-test. You need to have ANOVA, where you have multiple comparisons. Of course, chi-square, regression. I'm not going to the depth. These are certain statistical techniques used under inferential analysis. Um, Dr. Sujata, do you want me to go through the work example or
Uh,
because
yes, ma'am. You can cover, ma'am.
time? Yeah, because of the time I'm asking.
Yeah, yeah. More 5 to 6 minutes. You can go
Okay, so
ahead.
I'll just rush through the example and I will give it to you so that the students
Yes,
can
yes.
go
We
through it.
can share with the
Yeah,
student.
you can
Yeah.
share with them. So I'll just, this is the last slide. It's uh, a worked example where we are looking at a research where a school is experiencing low morale and researcher has to investigate the school's culture, right? So researcher has access to the school 5 months from the start of the project till the report. So timeline is also equally important. You cannot go on doing research for years and years, right? Unless it is a longitudinal research. So you have certain time limit, time amount. So purpose is to present a in-depth picture of the organizational culture and indication of the strength of the organizations and make suggestions. So these are the kind of purposes which lead to certain research questions. Now, these research questions will guide my method, methodology, tools, and everything as I pointed out, right? So what are the elements of the organizational culture in this school? You have already reviewed the literature. Now, keeping with in the literature in mind, you have framed these questions, right? Okay, what are the cultures that are prevalent, less prevalent, most prevalent? How strong are these subcultures? What are the causes and effects? And how can these be improved? So what will be my focus as a researcher? Organizational culture, subculture, the values, behaviors, and the artifacts that I get, right? So now what is organizational culture? All these things come from the literature. Methodology, let's go to methodology. So quantitative measures may be used, but they will not be able to yield in-depth information about the culture. They will give very superficial information. So to probe, we need qualitative. So the reason why mixed method is used in this particular research, quantitative will not be able to give you all the data that you want if you want to understand the school culture. So instrumentation. So if you look at here, a survey approach is also used. At the same time, group interviews and focus groups are also used. So a mixed method is used using both quantitative and qualitative. Instrumentation. So that is tool. So what are the tools used? You see here. Mm, uh, Questionnaires. Yeah, here you go. So questionnaires, semi-structured interviews,
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, your slide is not moving.
not
This is
moving.
just showing a work example of research.
Uh, I've shared it. Just give me 1 second. I'll go back and share. Mm, okay, now I'm sharing it directly. Now,
Yeah.
okay, fine. So I'll share this with you. So this is um we were here. Okay. So
Okay.
methodology, instrument. So if you look at the instruments, we have questionnaires, semi-structured interviews, both individual and group, observational data, and documentary data. So documentary data is also equally important, where you go to the office, you go to the academic records, you go to the administrative office and understand, what are the various things that directly related to the culture and the subculture. So if you see, there is an already existing questionnaire, organizational culture, which is already validated, and organizational culture inventory, which we can use. Researchers also can develop a questionnaire for their research if they find this questionnaire is not relevant to the study that you're doing. Sometimes these questionnaires can be from the Western context, European context, right? And for an Asian context, or specifically for an Indian context, you may need questions that are directly related to your culture. So then either you little bit modify it, revise it, or you completely prepare a different questionnaire. But if you're preparing a different questionnaire from scratch, you need to validate it through pilot test, pre-pilot test, item analysis, all those things the questionnaire has to undergo. Right? So questionnaires can be rating scales. Rating scales. Like you rate from 1 to 10. You have, right? In food, you rate, movie, you rate. So all these things from 1 to 10. So these are agree, somewhat agree, less agree, disagree, or satisfied, highly satisfied, those kind of rating scales. So questionnaires can be this. Then semi-structured interviews, what they will have intangible aspects which cannot be counted, or which are something which you can only get through words, values, assumptions, beliefs, wishes, problems. So these are all open-ended questions, right? Then observational data, where you actually be there. 5 months you are there. You have, so maybe 1 month you are there to observe everything. So artifacts, clothing, shared spaces, furniture, no, whether the furniture is also equally conducive for people sitting, how is the ergonomic this thing, all these things. And documentary data, you actually, what are the stored data in the school, the demographics of the students, the teachers, where they come from, the profile, all these things you will get from the documentary data. What are the sample? A questionnaire is given to all, then semi-structured interviews on critical case. Like from the data from the question, you will know whom to tap, whom do you really want more data from. So those will be your second stage, that is semi-interviews. Then maybe knowledgeable, that is the principal, the leader, the management, right? These are the key informants from whom you will collect data, maybe individual interviews. Mm, yeah. And of course, all these things, age level, so different age level, different departments, all these things will be there in the sampling. You will include all these characteristics in the sampling. Then, of course, collection of data through questionnaire as well as through interviews, data analysis and interpretation. You can use it, do it manually. You can use certain statistical tools that are available. Qualitative data, of course, you have thematic analysis, content analysis, document analysis. There are varied ways of what do you say, analyzing your qualitative data. And finally, of course, reporting the conclusions, implementations, recommendations. And you had to follow ethics like informed consent, voluntary basis, rights of withdrawal. If anybody wants to withdraw at any moment, they should be allowed to do so. So all these things are very, very important in any kind of research. And time frame. So first month what you will do, second month what you will do, till the fifth month you should have a tentative timeline. A NAT chart allows you to prepare a timeline. GNATT. It's a NAT chart. Yes, looks like an Excel chart. Yeah. So this is something, it indicates a systematic approach to planning and the conduct of research. Yeah. So this doesn't have hypothesis. It's more of a what do you say? Research questions. So this is how a research study is done, right from identifying problem to documenting the uh, conclusions and reporting it. Yeah, so this is the just a very quick overview and perspective of research, and this requires lot of deliberations and conscious attempts to understand each aspect. I'm sorry, 1 hour could only allow me to do this much.
Uh, Thank you, Madam Gomti. Yeah, what you said is very right that 1 hour is very less time to understand entire research methodology. But since our students are still, they are in the second year of their undergraduate program, for them it is like just the start of doing their research. But
Absolutely.
yes, whatever you have covered definitely will going to help them and give them very clear idea about what is research methodology. So, students, now floor is open for the question answer. If you have any question or any doubt or any comment, you can ask madam. You can unmute yourself and you can speak to her. You have today very good resource person. She is she belongs to Tata Institute of Social Science, which is known for the research in social science. So it's a very good opportunity to you also to understand research, and if you get knowledge from her, so it will be a value added for your existing knowledge. So please ask if you have any doubt or any question.
I'm sure that they are still trying to assimilate this information. Um, so eliciting doubts from them is going to be a problem now, because it's complete. They are novice, and I think just going to enter the area of research. It's not easy to even assimilate
Yeah,
that.
comprehend and
But
think
then,
about
yeah,
it.
but then yes, you can definitely go back and deliberate. You
Yes.
should take simple books. You should not take very complicated books. Very simple books for research. And you have a good team of faculty who will really guide you. No doubt about it.
So now I request Rizal Fernandez to propose formal vote of thanks to the madam.
Yes, a very good afternoon to
Yes.
one and all. First and foremost, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Gomti Jatin, for delivering such a lucid and illuminating session on research methodology. Your expertise has not only simplified the intricate facets of research for us, but has also ignited a sense of curiosity and clarity within. Your insights on this subject were especially thought provoking and will undoubtedly guide us in our academic journey. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to our esteemed principal, Dr. Sybil Thomas, the respected faculty members, especially Dr. Sujata and the organizing committee for conceptualizing and executing this event with such finesse. Your efforts behind the scenes have made today's session a seamless experience for us all. A warm thank you to my fellow students and attendees for being such a receptive audience. As we part ways today, may the seeds of knowledge sown here grow into great academic endeavors. In the words of Albert Einstein, if we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research. Thank you.
And Rizal, thank you so much for that. And yeah, I also thank you for putting down certain responses and being responsive to the session. Thanks, students, and wish you all the best for your project. Yeah. So
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
thanks, Dr. Sujata. Thank you. I'll leave. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rizal, thank you so much. And students, I have pasted feedback link on the chat. Please fill feedback and then give the meeting.
Always welcome, ma'am.
Yeah. God bless you, beta.
Thank you, ma'am.